Hi, it's Charlie from Brooklyn Bridge Ventures. I am very excited today to be hosting our Sales StackUp. We are going to be talking about scaling sales enablement and onboarding with Selin from Monday.com. And Selin works out of Monday's New York office, or in her case, their Jersey City micro office, but I guess that's the way we're all going kind of these days. And Selin, really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. I'll let you jump into it and share what you've got. So this way I can get out of your way.
Cool. Let me just make sure I am doing this right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So hi, everyone. I'm so honored and happy to be here. Thank you, Charlie. I'm here today. So I work at Monday.com on the sales enablement team, and you'll learn a little bit more about me and my role as we kind of get into this. But today I'm going to be talking about scaling sales enablement and onboarding and how we kind of navigated through these tough times and did it here at Monday. Our team has grown tremendously even in the past year. So I think it's really cool, not only what we've done in the past couple of months, but what we're doing in the next few months ahead in Q4 and also Q1. So I will jump right into it. So today on the agenda, I'll talk a little bit about Monday.com for those of you who might not know what our company does. I'll give you some background on who we are, who the enablement team is made up of, where we were before, and how we've scaled kind of full speed ahead. And then I know Charlie has saved some time at the end for Q&A. So I'd love to kind of answer any questions that come out of this and make this super engaging for all of you. Cool. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Selin Celebi. I'm part of the sales enablement team here at Monday. I actually started off as an account executive. So when I first joined Monday, it was August of 2019, and I was in an account executive role for a little less than a year. And then in May, I made a transition to join our sales enablement team. Prior to being at Monday, I've been in sales for the past 5 years. I worked at Salesforce as an account executive prior to coming on board to Monday. And just some background on a little bit more about my role. I facilitate our onboarding for our client-facing new hires each month. And I also work to build out continued education programs for our client-facing teams. And I'll give you some background on what that means in just a few. Cool. So what is Monday.com? For those of you that don't know, if any of you are on the East Coast and pre-COVID days, if you went into a train station, you might have seen our ads kind of plastered all over the train. But Monday.com is a work operating system that powers teams to run projects and workflows with confidence. It is the most complete and flexible system for users of all sizes, from enterprise companies, small and medium-sized businesses, and individual users. I think what's unique and absolutely incredible about our platform is because of the fact that it is so customizable, really any team or any vertical can find a way to use Monday.com. You can pretty much use it in 100 different ways. And the fact that it is so flexible and integrates with a lot of the common tools out there that we use day to day, whether it be email or Slack, LinkedIn or Facebook or Salesforce and HubSpot, we pretty much have native integrations built with all of those platforms, which make it ideal to not have to rip and replace tools, but allow those tools to kind of run in tandem with Monday as well. A few fun facts about us. So we launched in 2014. We have over 650 employees. 275 of those employees are based in the US. Just to give you an idea of how quickly we've grown in the past year, even since when I started, I was employee 50 in our New York office. So since then, we've grown to 275 employees, which is absolutely incredible. It's been a fun ride of getting to meet other people and getting to learn about their experiences thus far. We are based across 6 different locations. So we do have offices. Our headquarters is actually in Tel Aviv, Israel. Our headquarters in the US, so to call it, is in New York. And in the past year, we've also opened up offices in San Francisco, Miami, London, and Australia. So our team is kind of growing, and we're also becoming a lot broader in terms of where we are. And it's great that we have also a customer base that uses Monday all across the world. Speaking of our customers, we have over 115,000 paying accounts, which is absolutely incredible. And we have over 10,000 people sign up for a trial every single day. So for those of you that might not know this, Monday, we only work off of inbound leads. So our sales team actually never cold calls any customers. They never do any cold outbound or prospecting. Every single lead that they touch is a warm lead. So it's someone who is either signed up for a trial or reached out and wanted someone to contact them from the sales team, which is truly what's amazing, right? So you're always talking to people who are genuinely excited to learn more about the platform, and you don't have to deal with all of the cold calling and generating interest. There is that excitement out there about the platform. Cool. So the enablement team here at Monday is pretty slim. It's only made up of 5 individuals. Dave is the director of sales enablement. We all report up to Dave here. He's amazing. I'll give him a shout out. He's one of the best managers that I've worked for, and he's an amazing leader and super smart, and really kind of has brought the sales enablement team kind of full circle. And then everyone else works below Dave. So Apri and I actually work in North America. We're both based out of the New York City office. We do all of the client-facing onboarding and enablement for the US team. So anyone that's in NYC, San Francisco, or Miami. Then we have Andy. He does all of the client-facing onboarding and enablement for all of the teams in EMEA and APAC. So any of the client-facing new hires that join us in Tel Aviv or London or Australia. And then we have Aura, who is also based out in Tel Aviv, and she is our quality manager. So she is really kind of in the weeds out there, listening to gong calls, constantly giving feedback to all of the consulting team members. And that's kind of who we're made up of. Cool. So how is onboarding structured? You're probably wondering the way that we structured onboarding, and it's kind of the way that we've structured onboarding has kind of been the same. So even when I started initially at Monday, this has been kind of the way it's been broken out over the course of the weeks. And I really, really love this structure, and we've kind of stuck to it even today. So week 1 is all about product for our new hires. Week 1 is heavy in understanding and being a real kind of getting a good understanding of like what the product can do and what the capabilities are. So week 1 is lots of assignments in terms of building out different boards within Monday. We do a few different round robin quizzes where we actually have everyone taking turns answering questions in this really nice setting. But week 1, the sole thing that we focus on is product. And I think what makes all of our sales reps absolutely spectacular is that they all have an amazing understanding of what the product can do and translating that into what our customers envision of how they use Monday. Week 2 is everything to nail down the process. So after they've kind of learned the product portion of it, week 2 kind of transitions into more of a process. And what that means is we'll do a mock webinar, right? As if they're presenting Monday.com to 100 people who don't know anything about Monday.com. They'll then do mock exploratory calls, and they will also do a mock demo. So they will actually go through an entire role play of what the sales process is for the customers that they are going to be interacting with and speaking with. And then week 3 is all supplemental knowledge and getting ready to go live. So what happens in week 3 is now that they know a lot about the product and they've nailed down everything in regards to the process, week 3 is understanding how we use some of the tools that we use internally, right? So how do we use Salesforce on a day-to-day? What are the things to be looking out for? We have this awesome tool called Big Brain, which is like almost like the heart and soul of Monday.com, and all of our trial signups come in through there. So being able to read data and understanding a customer's trial usage, understanding how to quote, right? How to build a proposal and send a sales order to a customer, how to use tools like Yesware, right? What are the legal and security what are the different legal and security kind of measures we have to take when it comes to going through the procurement process? So week 3 is a lot of supplemental knowledge. And then they're basically ready to, at that point, hopefully go live. Throughout this entire process, they're also assigned a buddy. So they work with someone who's been in the role for probably, I would say, more than about 6 months. And that person is really someone that they can lean on, someone that they can ask questions to. They'll shadow that person's calls the first couple of weeks, and they'll go to that person for anything that they need. But I do want to emphasize that even though we have this buddy program, I think something that's amazing about Monday's culture is how helpful everyone is, and how much we encourage people to ask questions and help teammates. So aside from the buddy, we definitely recommend for them to get to know their team members, sit in on other people's calls, have other people join their calls throughout these kind of first 3 weeks. And yes, we use Monday internally to track the onboarding process. So we probably use Monday for almost everything that we do, but I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of how we go about doing this. So what you're looking at over here is our training schedule, and this board, actually, this is what a board looks like in Monday. This board gets duplicated every single month. And if you'll notice on this board, right over here, I have everything that happens in week 1, the type of meeting that it is, whether it's a Zoom meeting or whether this is an assignment on Lessonly, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The resource that is going to be a part of that specific meeting, the estimated time that they can anticipate that specific assignment or meeting taking. And then you'll notice that we have status columns here for every single person. So in a hiring class, for example, we might have 10 people. We'll have 10 different status columns, and everyone will be assigned into this board where they can go down the list and kind of check off where they are with all of their assignments and all of their coursework. Something I love about this is it is interactive and it's collaborative, and it helps us kind of keep everything in one place. There might be people in the onboarding class that have questions, and what's great about it is they keep this conversation and communication contextual, and you'll see right over here, they can actually go in and write in updates. So these little conversation bubbles, if they have a question about, I don't know, the boards we use internally, Zoom lesson, they can come in here and post it. And it's great because if anyone else has questions, they can kind of go in and crowdsource that knowledge as well. So we do use Monday to track the onboarding process. all of this information coincides with a client-facing calendar, which the new hires are added to. So the first 3 weeks is already very structured and very organized for them the moment that they start from day one. So what did onboarding look like before? And what I mean by before is probably in all of 2019, around the time when I started, every session was live. And I thought that was super unique because having worked at other SaaS companies, it takes a lot of time and resources to make every session live. And I thought that was something really, really cool. So back in the pre-COVID days when we could actually be in the office, every single session took place in a classroom. The onboarding team was one person. So Dave was kind of the guru of onboarding, and he led all of those sessions. Sales and customer success had separate onboarding and training. So it was primarily just even the onboarding class that I was in, it was primarily just everyone that was in the consulting team, which is what we call the sales team. And it just wasn't a scalable process. When there were more than 5 new hires on any given month, it was a lot for one person to kind of take on. I mean, even in week 2, if you remember what I talked about on the previous slide, we're doing live webinars and demos and exploratories, and all of those meetings take time in addition to all of the live sessions that we're doing every single day. So when we started to have onboarding and hiring classes that are more like 15, 20 people in one class, there was a kind of a strain on the resources that we had, and we had to pivot quickly because of this. So what's changed in the past few months? So like I mentioned, in 2019, the onboarding team was only one person. Every session was live. And then you'll kind of see the what we've kind of changed gradually over the past couple of months. So in March, when COVID happened and we all had to start working from home, COVID moved our onboarding to be fully online. So instead of doing the live in-house sessions, we were still doing all of those sessions, but we were just doing them over a Zoom meeting. In May, we grew the enablement team. So that's when Apri and I joined in May, and we combined client-facing teams for onboarding. What this means is instead of having sales go through their own onboarding process and CS and CX go through their own onboarding process, we combined everyone that speaks to clients, and we called it the client-facing teams. And this encompasses AEs, it encompasses partners, it encompasses customer success, SDRs, BDRs, anyone that ever comes in contact with a customer now goes through a very structured onboarding process where they go through the same sessions pretty much across week 1, 2, and 3. And then in July, we added in an LMS, which is a learning management system. The system that we chose is Lessonly, and we use it today. And we started focusing more on continued education, which I'll talk about in just a second. So how else did onboarding change in 2020? So like I said, when COVID happened, we needed to pivot quickly and effectively. We moved all of our in-house sessions to live sessions over the computer. We also took the live program and then transferred it to a digital landscape with the help of Lessonly and created a hybrid program. So today, absolutely, some sessions are live and they're on Zoom, where either myself or Apri or Dave or Andy are facilitating those sessions. But we also put in a mix of transferring a lot of those sessions onto Lessonly and giving the learners a mix and kind of a breakup in their day to have this hybrid program where on some calls they join the Zoom, but on some lessons they're just in Lessonly and they're going through the lesson. I do love Lessonly. It's super interactive, and I think it's been something that's been very, very engaging. We can add in kind of really cool GIFs. We can make the lessons really fun. We can embed videos. So we've gotten really great feedback on it from our overall team. And again, like I said, we're not only focusing on onboarding, but also continued education, especially with the help of Lessonly. That's really helped us kind of do that. The fact that we put an enormous focus on continued education. And I keep talking about this. It's because previously we didn't really have any continued education. At least it wasn't structured. So probably last year, once you got through the first 3 weeks of onboarding, that was really all the onboarding that you did. What we've now started to do is we're now starting to take those lessons and we're really structuring and developing paths and reinforced training. And what that means is onboarding doesn't just end at the three-week mark. It looks more like a series of months. And throughout those months, there are lessons that are sprinkled in. And we've created these paths for whether you're an account executive or an account manager or an SDR or a BDR. You'll learn the same foundational knowledge. So you'll learn the same product training. You'll go through the same exploratory and role plays. But once you probably get in month 2 and 3, we'll start to kind of see a shift in some of the niches that you start to learn more of. So, for example, if you're an account manager, you might take a lesson on building your book of business or personas that you need to target, versus if you are an account executive, it might be more so like growing your initial deal size. So we've kind of broken it up into paths, and we've now made it a multi-month kind of pathway instead of it being just a 3 weeks and then it ends kind of onboarding experience. We've also brought in further call coaching. So Lessonly is actually great for this because before we used to do all of our webinars live. We now have the ability to have the learner record their webinar or their pitches. They can upload it directly to Lessonly, and then it allows us to grade it, give them feedback, write out all of the comments that they can then go back and refer to. And in addition to continued education, we're also working on understanding and performing a skills gap analysis. So over the past couple of months, I've even been working out of Salesforce a lot and building together a lot of different reports and putting together a lot of different data to understand things like how can we shorten ramp time for AMs, right? Account managers. How do we take a person who has been very, very successful in a closing role and who has exceeded their quota probably month over month, and how do we duplicate those results across the sales team, right? So we're also really understanding a lot of data that gets put into things like Salesforce or Big Brain and taking that and trying to put it into digestible lessons to continue to invest in our consulting team. And also, just to kind of give you guys an idea, we did this all while staying true to ourselves and maintaining a culture of transparency. Monday is an extremely transparent company, probably the most transparent company that I've ever worked for. So for us, I can say that moving to a work from home environment and having to kind of pivot so quickly into, not really being in the office, we haven't lost this sense of transparency or culture along the way. And lastly, I just want to end off with this before we go into Q&A, but I wanted to tell you guys what I love most about my role. I genuinely feel like I make a huge impact on the business in my day-to-day. I get to work on so many different projects being in sales enablement and so many different teams. For me, making an impact was a non-negotiable when it came to being in any role, right? Whether it was being an AE or being in sales enablement, I think that's something that I look for in any role, and I feel like I get to do that here at Monday.
Cool. So I have a couple questions, but I just want to obviously open it up for anyone to either use the ask a question part or even just type in the comments. So I'd be curious about the challenges of, you could have somebody use Monday to organize a small party or you could have a 500-person company use it to manage sort of all of their tasks. And do you lead score as they come in, and how do you, does your sales team, is it allocated by size of company, or just everybody gets whoever the next lead kind of comes in? How do you, figure out whether, that person who's using it for one small thing could actually be attached to something larger?
Yeah. Really good question. So like I mentioned, we have over 10,000 trial signups per day, and that's not to say that 10,000 of those leads get distributed to the sales team. So we have something called a no-touch funnel and a touch funnel. So the no-touch funnel, think of it as people who are just signing up to use Monday for things like wedding planning, or signing up with a Gmail account because they want to keep track of their grocery list, right? Those leads will probably never come in contact with a salesperson, and they'll just organically go online, sign up with a credit card. We do have very vigorous lead scoring that the BizOps team has put into place. So every time a lead signs up for a trial account, they go through a certain set of criteria. So things like, is it attached to a company email address? Like their domain is not just at gmail.com. Did they put in any information about what business they work for? How big is their team size? Then that data is also enriched with tools like ZoomInfo and Clearbit. So only the leads where the company size is greater than 100 employees, those are the ones that get distributed to the sales team. And we're also looking at things like, what is this person's title? So we ideally want them to be, director or manager or product manager, not necessarily like an intern or a BDR. And we also filter out leads where there are titles like bartender or nurse, and also anyone that's EDU, since we have a separate EDU program for those leads. So if you look at the big picture, yes, although 10,000 people sign up for a lead, probably a little less than 1,000 of those actually get distributed every day to the sales team.
Gotcha. And curious about what you've put together on Lessonly, and whether or not, given that your week one is all about product, whether you've thought about or moved any of that content to be customer facing. Because if you're just teaching somebody about how the product works, there's other companies, for example, like HubSpot has built out a whole course thing, and you could be like HubSpot certified or whatever. Is that something you've thought about sort of putting out there and creating more educational stuff for customers as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And to be really transparent with you, I don't know the answer to it. And I think that's a great idea. I know similarly to your HubSpot example, like Salesforce does it with Trailhead, where you can go in and you can take courses to better understand the platform. We don't currently have anything like that today. And I think Lessonly is potentially a great way to build out some of that customer-facing content. Lessonly, for the most part today, we just use it internally for pretty much everyone across the company at this point. And what we've built out so far, to give you an idea, is like even in week one, there are product courses. So we've gone from like taking them from Google Slides, and we've kind of revamped them into this interactive lesson where there's usually like a quiz at the end. So it's great because we can also build a lot of reinforcement lessons. We've built out things like around what the security and legal process is. I've built out lessons for like how to use Deal Hub, which is our CPQ platform, and like I'll take a video, like a Loom video of myself walking through how to actually build it and put that into a lesson. And since we can add in like the quizzes at the end of the lessons, it's great because it makes sure that they're learning and they're engaged and actually reading the content. But it also gives them a score. And later on, after they're done with the lesson, they can go back into their library if they need a refresher, and they can always revisit it.
Gotcha. When somebody starts out and joins the team, what kind of timelines are you expecting? And obviously this differs product to product before somebody actually starts performing. And, at what path? I mean, sometimes it takes some people longer to kind of get their feet wet versus others. And what's that initial expectation set like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our ramp time is 6 months across all of our teams, which I think is actually pretty generous. I think in most other companies, the ramp time looks something more along the lines of like 30 to 60 days. But here you have to, your ramp time is 6 months, but that's also partially because you have to really build that book of business. You don't just like walk into business closing and you get to like reap the benefits of it, so to say. So the first month is essentially all onboarding. The second month is you don't have a quota, but you have metrics that are like, for example, you need to create 10 opportunities and you need to have 5 discovery calls and 5 demos. So they're not so hard metrics in terms of like numbers and ARR that you need to close. And then
they're not transactional.
They're not transactional. And then by month 3, that's when the quota starts ramping. So in month 3, you're maybe expected to close like 25% of your overall quota, and then it grows up until you get to the 6-month mark. And ideally, most reps actually close their first deals right after they go through the onboarding process. So they're actually closing deals on that second month when they don't even have a quota or a number associated to their performance. And we can definitely see them get better and progress and close more deals as they get closer to that 6-month mark.
Gotcha. Are most of the people who are coming in looking for confirmation in the process and potentially, price negotiation or anything like else like that? Or are they still, one thing I've heard from people is that over time, customers are more informed. And they're more informed now than they've ever been. They do, like the current buyers versus, 10 years ago, whatever, they're not there for you to tell them about the product. They've already asked a bunch of people. They've watched all your stuff. Maybe they've poked around the trial. So what is it that you're doing with those customers that is most effective in that process?
So that's a great question as well. And I think you'd be actually surprised that the majority of the buyers don't come as informed as you probably think they do. And a lot of them, even after a lot of our customers will sign up for a trial and then we'll say something along the lines of, I signed up I was curious, like what Monday can do. I really don't know what it does. But usually probably 95% of the time we are going through a full buying cycle. So we are going through exploratory, demo, maybe multiple demos, going through legal security procurement. And I've even found from being an AE and starting off as an AE, it's a lot of education from our end to the customer in terms of what Monday can do. But that's also how we broaden the number of users that we can chip away at, right? They might come to us for project management, but during the demo, we might show them different use cases for document centralization or keeping track of their weekly meetings, right? Or keeping track of their sales pipeline, right? So it's constant education on our end to the customer of what the true capabilities of Monday are. And I find that even with them signing up for a trial, there's so much that they learn along the way, especially when they get to like that demo process.
Gotcha. Cool. One quick question. Somebody messaged me directly, and I'll wrap it up. And I really appreciate you, taking the time. I thought I heard in there that you guys are you using Yesware as your CRM?
We're not using Yesware as our CRM. We use Salesforce as our CRM.
Okay.
We actually use Yesware for all of our email campaigns and our templates. So
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, because the sales reps are getting a handful of leads per day, they use Yesware as a way to check things like open rates, reply rates. They can put their leads into a email cadence and fire off campaigns. So that's primarily what we use it for.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And well, I'm sure you'll probably pick up a few new leads as well.
Thank you. Thank you
All
guys
right.
for giving me the opportunity and it was so nice meeting you.
No problem. Talk to you soon.
Okay.